He's not the sergeant in arms. He's not coming to take away anybody from the house. Thank you very much, ma'am. Welcome to the panel. In 2 minutes, please tell us who you are, your work experience, and then after that, members will ask questions. There will only be 4 members asking questions. We are aware of your flight problem. We are trying to meet you halfway. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, honorable members. My early work experience was in the youth movement, in the ANC Youth League. My name is Febe Potgieter Gqubule, my apologies. As I said, my early work experience was in the youth movement, responsible initially for leadership development, political education. I also work in the National Youth Development Forum with the piloting of the National Youth Service Initiative in the early 1990s, then as Deputy Secretary and then Secretary General of the ANC Youth League. Subsequently to that, as National Working Committee Coordinator of the ANC. I then took off 2 years to do a master's and then got appointed as South African Head of Mission to Poland, Warsaw. My latest employment was first as advisor to the chairperson and then as Deputy Chief of Staff at the African Union Commission in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. At the moment, since returned, I've also served on the interim board of the SABC, as members maybe are aware, and then also working in a children's publishing company that I founded with a partner. My other experience I have served on the boards of a number of other public entities, the State Information Technology Agency, as a ministerial appointee on the council of the Mangosuthu University of Technology, the Lejuela Putswa Development Agency, as well as a number of other not-for-profit organizations. Currently, I am serving on the board of the Mapungubwe Institute for Strategic Reflections, as well as an advisory council member of the African Cities Alliance, which is a policy center at the University of Cape Town. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Broadcasting Act talks about disclosure of conflict of interest. Are you okay there?
As I did at the beginning when I was appointed as an interim board member, my sister-in-law, Thandeka Gqubule, is a senior manager in the news division at the SABC. So that's a conflict that I declare and wish to declare.
Thank you very much. Honorable Van Dam. Honorable Davis taking over.
Thank you, Chair.
Your 5 minutes.
Thanks. You mentioned, thank you very much for coming. Sorry, it's been a long day. You mentioned earlier that you were involved in the ANC, and it says on your CV that you were part of the NEC from 2007 to 2012. And you were also Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma's, I think, Deputy Chief of Staff, if I'm correct. Can you tell us how this impacts on your nomination? You know, in the next 6 months, there's going to be a lot of speculation about various candidates for the ANC's own internal elections. There's also going to be a big spotlight on the SABC and its own integrity and where it stands in this factional battle that's going to play out. So I think the public perception, there would be a justified public perception that you were being put onto the board to make sure that a certain faction's voice is heard above the other factions. How would you respond to that?
I would say that the speculations about the candidacy of the ANC in the upcoming conference in December has been around for at least the last year or so. I have, in the 5 months that I've served on the SABC interim board, that certainly has not arose. But I think that more generally, I have served in a number of positions in organizations where I either represented the Youth League or where I hold more than one position, and there has never been an issue. I think that it's very clear for me that if you serve in an institution, then you have to make sure that you maintain the integrity of that institution. And certainly that would be the same professionalism that I would bring to the SABC board as I did to the interim board or as I did as an ambassador of South Africa to Poland or as I did in the African Union Commission, because even there you can't represent just one country. You are a public servant of the whole 54 member states. So I certainly, in my work experience, have not found that as a difficulty, and I'm sure there will be questions arise, as you correctly pointed out. But I think that the facts will speak for themselves.
Thank you. Sorry, I just made a note here that I wanted to refer to. Recently, you said that the ANC's integrity needs to be restored. You said that we need to restore the integrity of the ANC and restore the confidence of the people in the ANC. Don't you think these kinds of what are seen by many people as deployments by the party to the state broadcaster, in fact, undermine the integrity of the public broadcaster as well as the ANC?
I don't think that in itself it undermines that undermines the integrity of the organization. I think that if there is deployment where candidates, one, don't have the qualifications, or they don't have the experience, or they don't have the integrity, then that's where the problem lies. I think that any political party across the board, that goes for the ANC, but certainly for a political party anywhere in the world, has a number of roles that they play. They have to aggregate policy, they have to win support amongst the population for that policy, and they have to train personnel, whether they're part of the party or not of the party, to make sure that their policies are implemented and that institutions work. So I think that certainly it's deployment in itself is not an unusual part of the work of political parties, and I'm sure you can go anywhere in the world. But I think that the difficulty that we have found has got to do with the fact that whether people are able to make sure that the primacy of the institutions are upheld. And I think that the SABC, the Charter, the Broadcasting Act is very clear about what is expected of board members, the kind of integrity that they must represent South Africans as a whole. And I think that if whoever, from whichever political party they are, or whether they're from a religious institution or whatever, remember that, then I think that we should not be having problems.
Thank you. In recent years, we've seen instances on television, but unfortunately not the SABC, where the President Zuma, has been booed at various ANC events. And the SABC has chosen not to broadcast that, while many other broadcasters, local and international broadcasters, have broadcast that, because it's significant that ANC members are booing their own president, and that is obviously very newsworthy. Do you agree with the SABC's decision not to broadcast the booing of the president at those events?
One of the things that we have been saying as an interim board, and certainly a position that I have articulated as well, is that the Constitution as well as the Broadcasting Act expect us to operate with journalistic integrity, to allow for freedom of expression, to ensure that the population is informed. And certainly something like the booing of the leader of a party, and it doesn't matter which party it is a matter that South Africans would find newsworthy, both from those that are supporters or members of that party, or if they are from just general public and have to make up their mind about how they want to vote or who they want to support, then certainly it would be newsworthy. I think that the kind of editorial prescripts that has been handed down over the last while to the SABC is not helpful to journalistic integrity, and that goes across the board.
Round up, ma'am. Time is up. Thank you very much, Honorable Ndlozi.
What happened to the other way of starting? It makes it look a bit opposition first, then ruling party after. I'm serious. I'm serious.
No, your minutes are going. Can you?
No, Chair, I'm genuinely asking a procedure question just for my comfort.
If you were here when we started.
Oh,
first
okay,
day.
no problem. So we've got 5 minutes. First question is, there is a problem with deployment. When a political party sits somewhere and says, go and represent the party in a specific position. Otherwise, it's not deployment. Deployment is precisely about representing the interests of the ANC. Now, in a position like the public broadcaster, that should have a serious ethical dilemma, don't you agree? If not, please explain.
I think that the way I understand the process is that it's open for any institution or organization to nominate. I know, for example, that amongst the organizations that have nominated me was one of the musicians associations. I'm actually not sure whether I've been nominated by the ANC. But I think that, as I say, that any organization, any political party should have the right to nominate.
Deployment in the ANC means go to a specific body. For instance, they are deployed as members of parliament. That is legally fine. That is ethically correct. Into the SABC, you are saying it's correct for the ANC to deploy you with the ANC, for the ANC to deploy you into the SABC. Am I correct?
What I said, in terms of my answer to the previous question, is that political parties has the right to nominate.
We're talking about deployment.
Yeah.
I understand nomination.
Yes.
Is it correct for the ANC to deploy you into the SABC board, as it does, as it has in this case, deployed Honorable Dolash, Honorable Jacob Zuma into government and the parliament? Because that's deployment. So is it correct for the ANC to deploy you into the SABC board? That's my direct question to you. Yes or no? You are free to explain.
It's not the same. The deployment of members of parliament is on the basis of a process in terms of how parliament work and how political parties nominate members.
Members of parliament don't get interviewed. Parliament is a public institution. I have 5 minutes with the greatest respect. And I'm saying to you, deployment means you are going into parliament to pursue the mission of the political party called the ANC.
Yes, no, it's different.
So in what way is the ANC deploying you into the board that is different to the ANC deploying members of parliament into parliament?
The difference is that when people are deployed as members of parliament, they're on a party list and they're expected to follow a certain party discipline, whether it's the DA, the EFF, or the ANC. When there's a nomination by a party or any organization to the SABC board, then you have to go through the processes, and when you become a member of the board, you are bound by the prescripts of the law, by the charter of the board, and the ethical behavior that's expected there. So it's completely different.
I'm afraid you are wrong, because the recent Constitutional Court judgment says they too are bound by the prescripts of the law. Yes. I'm not sure what the differences are.
They're bound by the prescripts of the
last
law
question
as
I
it
have,
relates to
it's okay.
Parliament.
I'm fine with that question. I think it's completely a wrong interpretation and it's illegal. NEC of the ANC in 2017, will you stand for nomination?
I have not.
I'm told that some people prefer you as the DSG. In fact, they say you are standing.
I have not been approached by anyone to stand for ANC. The fact that I've made myself available and accept the nomination for the SABC board means that I don't have aspirations or personal aspirations for higher office.
Will you be standing for NEC this December in the ANC? I have not been nominated. If nominated, will you be standing for the NEC this December?
It's a position that I'll have to consider at the time.
So,
I haven't decided.
It might happen. I want to help myself. It might happen.
Of course,
so if elected into the NEC, will you maintain your position in the SABC? Should you be given the SABC board position, will you resign or will you stay?
Yeah, I don't think it would be ethical to continue. on the board. That's just my personal
So you
point
will
of view.
resign should you be elected
Yes,
into the
yes,
NEC?
yeah.
Thank you. No further questions.
Honorable Madisha.
Febe, Ms. Potgieter. You see, I think that 3 issues that one was raised. Number one, thank you for the contribution you've made, together with the others, as we went on to deal with the problem of SABC. Okay, there we need to thank you. But secondly, you see, the issue that the honorable doctor here has raised, it is truly a problem, because you talk of deployment, and if you speak of deployment, like, I mean, we are all deployed here as politicians, okay? And we indeed shall push that which the policies from our own political institutions are. And it is even more effective if you talk about administration. Administrators are there to implement. The politicians can just make noise, but administrators implement. That, to me, is a major problem. And it is even worse when you go to SABC, etc. It's going to be even more effective in destroying others. Let me put it in that way. How do you handle it in that?
I think you're absolutely right that it is a concern. Where I come from, it offends me as somebody that fought for freedom, as somebody that have worked for democratic South Africa, that we have institutions that's been set there by the Constitution that does not work for a whole range of different reasons. And the same goes for the SABC. The SABC is there to make sure that there's a diversity of views, that it represents the diversity of South African experience in terms of information, education, and entertainment. And if such an institution is destroyed because of the politics of the day, then I think that there's a serious problem. And for me, after quite a lot of reflection about whether I should go beyond the 6 months on the interim board or not, part of the reason why I accepted to be nominated was to do with the fact that I think that it's an important institution, that we need to protect its integrity, that we need to be able to give South Africans the opportunity to make up their minds based on information that's given in a fair way, in an impartial way, in a way that represents the diversity of views in this country. And that is part of the democracy that I certainly believe that I struggled for.
Well, of course, those of us who know the kind of contribution you have made in the past do understand. But then this is a different kind of thing. And one may say it obviously, that's what I think, unless you prove me otherwise, will be a continuation of that which you stood for. Okay? So all that I'm saying is kindly rise and say that shan't be the case. Because here we're looking at Chapter 10 of the Constitution. We're looking again at the serious problems which you know, which permeated SABC for all these years.
4 seconds left.
And these are very serious things.
4 seconds
and
left.
Are you going to handle this?
I certainly agree with you that the problems that we face are definitely serious. And I think that a democracy needs strong institutions such as your public broadcaster that will be able to defend those democratic values. As a Democrat and a South African, I'm certainly committed towards upholding those prescripts of the Constitution, and also of my own conscience that I've been fighting for the last, I don't know, 30 years since I was in high school.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Honorable Kalako.
Afternoon, Mrs. Febe Potgieter Gqubule. Look, just one question, Chair. I know you are serving. Let's commend you as part of that collective which was trying to turn things around in the SABC now of the interim board. My question, Chair, maybe so that Ms. Gqubule understand the concerns, because previous boards were dissolved on the basis of infighting in the boards, based on factions of the ANC. And that's what makes people to be suspicious. I know everybody was actually now saying this interim board is doing good job. These questions have not arisen, but the members is their right to satisfy themselves about the candidates they are putting there. To me, are you, because part of the last experience was part of the members of the board and part of the executive who, when questioned on wrongdoing, they will drop names of Luthuli House, of Mahlabandlovu, that is Pretoria, that no, this come from above. And in fact, even some ministers will tend to do that. Will you be above that? Because all we need there is a credible board with integrity, which does its work without taking any sides. Well, you know, I don't doubt that SABC is a contested terrain. That's why your EFF will jump your DA, your COPE, your IFP on those matters, so that public broadcaster remains as public broadcaster. Can you assure us on that?
I understand what the question. I think that one of the advantages, I suppose, that I've had is that most of the last 10 years I've been out of the country. I think 8.5 years of the last decade. And it gives you a sense of looking at the country from, I mean, of course, you have a concern about what's happening in the country, but at the same time, you're looking at it from a distance. And I think that the allowing an institution, a situation in an institution to degenerate to the extent that the SABC has, it's completely unacceptable. I think that for any patriotic South Africa, to serve on a board of a public institution and to allow it to degenerate to this extent, it's completely unacceptable. And certainly I would not be part of an institution and certainly not part of a board where you have that kind of degeneration of the institution and a rundown of the institution. I think it's unacceptable. I do think that part of what needs to happen is a sense of from the onset that the board has to make sure that it lays down the basic ground rules about how it deals with different issues. Because I'm not pretending that these things are easy. They're fairly difficult issues. So I think that my take on it be that there would have to be very serious work to make sure that there's agreement about what is the mandate of the institution, what is the role of the board, and how it deals with those kind of conflicts, and then lay down ground rules in terms of the basic premises of the Constitution as well as the Broadcasting Act. And particularly with regards to making sure that there's fairness. I think that fairness is at the bottom of what's expected, the constitutional expectation of us in terms of the public broadcaster. And I think that if fairness is the principle, whether it's how you deal with staff, how you deal with all South Africans, how you deal with political parties, then I think that should be the guiding principle.
Very much. The complication would be now the 12 members of the board. 5 was manageable in terms of what he's saying. Now we'll have a bigger a group, and we really will really need, I mean, if you are appointed into this board, we really expect that you stand on what you say. But also, if also you are in the board, the Committee of Communications, I think is a place where we'll have to interact, and the committee must deal with those issues without fear or favor, because I think we'll be standing for South Africans. So if things go as we haywire, if I can put it that way, then we'll have to move in as the portfolio committee, so that we can assist the board. If there is something, then we'll deal with it without fear or favor. Well, it's not a question. I'm just saying we'll have to do the best for South Africans so that we don't have all these things that have been happening all these years. Can we leave it at that, members? Yes, ma'am?
One quick one, Chair. I just wanted to clarify something. So in your response to Honorable Ndlozi, you said that you would stand down from the SABC board if elected into the NEC. Now, was this when you're elected or when you're nominated? Because when you're nominated, it's also very dicey. I mean,
can I check this? Yes, that's the question. Can I check this? I think your response was that you are not nominated to be in the NEC of the NEC.
Yeah, nobody has approached me.
Yes.
I think the process was opened on Friday, so I think it's early days. I think that it's early days. It was open on Friday. So, and the way I understand the process work now is that it doesn't go through the regions and provinces. It goes directly from the branches. So I will have to consider whether I will accept nomination if I get nominated. I mean, it's not sure. And then to make a decision on the basis of that, in terms of what I regard as my national duty weighs stronger. For example, when I was requested to be part of the team at the African Union Commission, I did not make myself available in 2012 as for the conference. I was nominated and I stepped down because I believe that the African Union Commission is an important continental institution and that I could make a contribution. I think the fact that I've signed the acceptance form is based on the belief that I could make a contribution to the SABC, and that's on the basis of which I made the decision.
Yeah. No, I don't think we must belabor the point. The issue is you were nominated to serve in the board. Hence, you are here for interviews. That decision, at least, you have taken. That you accepted, and you'll accept to be in the board if you are successful. The only decision that we have not yet taken, because we are not yet nominated, is that of being in the NEC. I think let's close it at that. Thank you very much. Any question to the members?
Maybe just one issue from my experience with the interim board. I think that it's important that the kind of skills mix in the board, that the committee takes that in consideration. I mean, I think that one of the things that certainly was a weakness is that none of us had direct. I mean, we could read balance sheets, etc., But none of us had a deep finance experience. And I think that kind of sort of different types of experiences are quite useful, in addition to the intergenerational mix.
Definitely, when we look at the 12, we'll definitely have people with finance skills. Thank you very much, Mrs. Gqubule. Safe travel. Can we have the next candidate, Mbo? Utata Madija, uyathanda uncokolisa. Uyathanda uncokolisa, akathanda uncokola, uyathanda uncokolisa. Akomama, yes. Kangayenze le nto kodata.
And then it turns, that means it's ready to take your breath. Okay.
Thank you very much and welcome, Mr. Is it Ratsumo or Ratsomo? Yes, I'm right. So it's Mr. Ratsumo. You have 2 minutes to tell us about yourself, and tell us everything. Don't hide other things. And maybe that was on a lighter note. Tell us everything, but just summarize your work experience and who you are, as well as clarify us if you are not affected by the disclosure section in the SABC Act. You know, conflict of interest is something that we want to check all the time when we discuss with you candidates. Thank you very much. 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon also. I will try to do it in 2 minutes. As I say, my name is Thabiso Ratsumo. I am originally from the Vaal Triangle in Gauteng. And I would like to indicate that my work experience, I can take it starting from 1982.
Can you, yes, so that you are closer to it?
In 1980,
and maybe have a glass of water first?
Yes. I'm saying in 1982 because I was arrested and served a prison sentence, and I got released, and my first real employment was as a researcher for the South African Institute of Race Relations. I'm a co-compiler in that regard of 2 of the editions of the South African Institute of Race Relations annual book 82 and 83. At the beginning of 1984, I decided to go and study. I went to Rhodes University to study journalism, where I studied print media, broadcast media, photojournalism, and filmmaking. I couldn't finish the course because, again, I was arrested in my second year in that situation. And then I faced, at the beginning of 1995, I was charged with treason. And between 1985 and 1988, I appeared in what people normally call the Delmas treason trial during that period. And then I was acquitted on all the charges. And from 1989,